Okay, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Neighbours. And today we're joined with Sean Kelly, Chief Operating Officer of Mission Thrift. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I've been looking forward to this episode. I'd mentioned before we got in here that we did a feature on Mission Thrift. I think it was last year. That was my first time going in there, and I was literally blown away from the staff that you had there, the volunteers you had there, the way that the store looked, the products that you had in there too. And it was my introduction into learning about it. And it was impressive. So I'm super pumped to have you here. So let's just hop into, give me a quick history on Mission Thrift. What's the story behind it, behind the brand?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us today. I'm excited to represent Mission Thrift. So our story starts in 1989, 36 years ago, and it was in Chilliwack, BC, beautiful place up in the mountains. And so two gentlemen went on a mission trip actually to India, and they were really touched by what was happening there, and they saw the poverty. They saw, how easily you can make a difference by investing in education, teaching people how to read and write, things like that. So they got excited. They came back. And they said, what can we do to make a difference? So I think they bought a farm and some cows, and that didn't work out so well. And they were in a coffee shop, and a thrift store was up for sale. And so that became the very first Mission Thrift store in 1989. And then slowly, step by step, more stores started popping up. And now we have 51 stores coast to coast.
51. So it started out west, on the west coast of Canada. And do you know, so you started with one. Do you know what, 1 to 51, what's the growth like? Is it like 1, 3, 10? Is it that over the 30 plus years? Is it a consistent one? Or was it, we had the one store, did that for a bit, then we got 2, 3, and then we went from 3 to 20 to 40 to 50.
Yeah, I think they scaled pretty quick in the beginning. They went to 16 or 17 stores, if I'm not mistaken. The CRC church was very involved, so they started helping to pop up, and they got a strong volunteer base from that. When you open a store, people love to come drop their items off, and then we had a good volunteer network to help support them. And then we started a program to be able to raise money to open new stores, and then that's where we came into Ontario, and now we have 26 stores there. And we've been on a great trajectory, opening about 3 or 4 stores a year for the last couple of years, which is good to see.
That's amazing. And how long have you been with the organization? How did you get it on your radar? How did you become a part of it?
So I've been now 3 years. It feels like it's been a lot longer.
Yeah.
But I am still learning so much every day. I was recently reading about the 10,000 hours to become an expert. I think that's about 6.5 years. So there's so much that I still learn every day. But 3 years ago, I got to join the organization. I grew up, my parents did mission work, so I grew up in many countries around the world, and then I started doing humanitarian work, and so had the privilege of serving in a lot of different countries and some different war zones and things like that. Then we moved our family back to Canada because my wife's Canadian, I'm from the States, and we'd both grown up overseas. So it almost felt like immigrating, even though it was our home country. We came back in 2012, and I continued to do international work, and I was really hoping for a local opportunity. And then a friend of mine sent an ad over. They said, hey, they're looking for a COO. And I was a COO at the time. And it's 3 minutes from your house. I was like, this is great. So I applied and super happy. We have an awesome team. And our support center for all 51 stores is in Newmarket. And so that's where I have a lot of fun, get to work with an awesome team there.
That's incredible. I imagine it's challenging and fulfilling too, right? It's fast growth, but doing a lot of great work. So Absolutely. It's a mixture of both. Let's just dive in, explain what Mission Thrift is from the store level. I think let's just take the Newmarket location just as the example of it. Just for people that are listening that have no idea what it is, I think that would be helpful too. I'm saying I've already been there, you work there, we know these things, but for someone that doesn't know, explain Mission Thrift, kind of the mission behind it, how it works, how it functions. Yeah.
Sure. So a thrift store is an awesome place. We get a store in a community, can be anywhere from 5,000 square feet all the way up to 30,000 square feet. And in the back, you have an awesome place to receive donations. You want it to be a place that's welcoming, so donors will come. We get the donations, then you process them in the back, and that's very much volunteer driven. So one of our stores will have anywhere from 75 up to 300 volunteers that are supporting the store. And in Newmarket, I think we're around 150 volunteers, which is amazing. And they're the ones that make that magic happen. And then you go through it. Some of the items you receive, you can't even bring into the store. You'd be surprised to hear. I think sometimes there's been live animals dropped off. I think there was a grenade one time. You got to call the police. Like there's all sorts of stuff that come to the back of our store, and we have these amazing people who sort through it, make it look beautiful, and then merchandise it out on the floor so it looks amazing and do these displays. And that's where volunteer power is amazing, because if you have staff doing it, a store, it's hard to get someone that's going to come out and spend a lot of time merchandising, but you've got volunteers, it's their expertise, it's their time. So we can set up a nice, beautiful store and then welcome in the community to come and shop. And we really want to be known as a place where we build community. So if people want to volunteer, you can find community there. You want to shop, you want to take your time, you want to sit down. Usually we have chairs where someone can just sit, relax, feel at peace. It's a busy world. Some people don't have a safe place to be, and we're like, come on in. If you need a coffee, we'll grab you a coffee. And then you can find really unique finds that you can't find in other places. And that's what's special about Thrift. The thrill of the hunt and being able to find something that it could be vintage, it's going to be good quality, but it's unique, and there's only one of a kind sitting in that store.
Yeah, we'll definitely double click onto the thrifting side of it, but on the volunteers, right? Because clearly you have an extremely powerful volunteer network from store level and then across all of them. How many volunteers would you say? Obviously, there's some fluctuation of it across kind of the board.
So 2025, we have 5,703 volunteers. And that's the highest number we've ever had at Mission Thrift, which is really exciting to see. We have an awesome director of volunteer engagement. And, volunteering takes time, it takes effort. And going through COVID, people started to reflect on, okay, what am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my life? So actually, a lot of organizations saw volunteers start to decline. And we see volunteers have become a lot more transient, where someone will come in, they don't want to commit a lot, but they'll come in for a bit and then they'll go somewhere else, or you have students. But we have an awesome team that really sees the value of volunteerism. I think it saves us tens of millions of dollars every year. And so being able to set up a nice environment, a nice space. If you come into our thrift store, the back ends are a lot bigger than the traditional thrift store. 2 or 3 times as big. The lunchroom is big because we want to create a place where people can come and feel at home and have a great time. You're not facing a wall when you're there sorting goods. You're facing someone so you can talk and laugh. And so volunteers are the heartbeat of our store, and that's what makes everything possible.
Yeah, when you're talking there, I'm like, because it's such a large volunteer network, right? And it's very impressive of that, but it's clear the way that you're talking that it's built with the volunteers in mind, right? Where I think a lot of organizations, it's like, okay, we're doing this thing, we need volunteers, right? So it's not built with kind of the volunteer thought process of it, where it's like the space is large, it's welcoming, you're talking to other individuals, being thoughtful of what's the volunteer experience going to be like. I guess that's going to be the key to success, to having a good volunteer network, right?
Yeah. I agree.
And keeping them engaged. Design with the volunteers in mind. Yeah, that's so smart. Now, so let's talk about thrifting, because I think it's been obvious. It's evolved, like the brand of thrifting has grown drastically. I guess you guys get to kind of ride that wave of the thrifting side of it. And even more than thrifting, even though it's a piece of it, but the thrill of the hunt of it, right? Where you, compared to like a classic big box retail store or something like that, where if you continue to go back there, you kind of know what you're going to get. Maybe new seasons, like there'll be new stuff. But with like a Mission Thrift, every time you go in, you don't know what's going to be in there because you don't know what has been donated. So talk about that, thrill the hunt and the growth of thrifting a little bit.
Absolutely. That's one of the best parts about what we do is so Thrift has doubled, I believe, over the last 5 years. It's amazing how this industry's grown. And I think traditionally, if you go back 15, 20 years, it was all about value. And so if I need to find something cheap, I'm going to go to the thrift store. Now that perspective's completely changed. So people care a lot about the environment. They care about circularity and how can we reuse an item. That's central to what we do. We don't want to have to recycle. We want to be able to reuse an item and extend that life of the product. And so fast fashion, things don't last as long as they do. We even see that with the donated product that comes in. The quality isn't there like it used to be. And so people love to come into the store, I would say, one, still to find good value. And, times are not easy right now. The country's facing a lot of economic challenges. Macroeconomic headwinds are huge that we're facing. And so people will still come for value. But they'll also come because they care about the environment and the stewardship. They'll also come because of the thrill, like you said, of that hunt, like finding this amazing piece that's just incredible. You can't find it anywhere else. And you can find it for 75% off. And there's only one piece, that one of a kind. So I think that's really exciting. And we were saying thrifting has become a verb now. So my daughters, for example, they'll get their friends, we're going to go thrifting, Dad. And they're going to hit up a bunch of stores and do a circuit. And it becomes like this weekend, thing that's special. They're looking forward to. And we see some people come in every single day because there's a new item coming out that they want to be there to see. And so it is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's such a great aspect of it and such a unique value prop too. And, it's so clear that you guys have really cracked the code of how you're kind of be built out with this other piece of social impact too of it, right? So it's like the volunteer piece of it, donation piece of it. Let's talk a little bit more of the social impact part of it. How does that work from the Mission Thrift viewpoint?
Absolutely. So that's why we exist. And so we are registered as a charity at our support center, and each of our stores are nonprofits. And so we are national as an organization, but we're local because we have 51 nonprofits across Canada, and they all have a local board that governs them. They make local impact through the local partnerships that they support. And then we have global impact when we put all of that together. And so we have 3 impacts at Mission Thrift. One is the environmental, giving items another chance at life and keeping it out of the landfill. Second is local impact. And so across the country, we have 529 partnerships with charities where we can support them with product and whatever they need. So Newmarket, I believe, has 18 partnerships. And so they're helping In From the Cold, community living. We've got their volunteers coming there, giving free gift cards, free product to the local stores. And then all the money that we collect across all our stores, we give to our partner, Bible League of Canada. And that's our joint ministry partner. So last year, we were able to raise over $11 million. And to date, in 36 years, we've raised $150 million, if you can imagine.
Wow.
That's all through volunteer power and community support. It's pretty incredible when you see. So it's 3 impacts that we have there because of community support.
Yeah, is incredible. And, obviously my business brain automatically goes, that's incredible. And as well, the compounding effects are now in place because it's 100 million over the 30 years, but 11 last year, right?
Yes.
So the impact is going to be continuing to grow and grow quick too. Yeah. It's like, I could go so many places now. So I guess, what's the plan? What's a 5-year plan of it? More stores, because more stores, more volunteers, more donations, more impact. Is that kind of the pathway for this?
That's a great question. So part of the growth that they saw quickly is that we started a program where we would raise money. People would invest in opening a store, and we would give them a small interest back. It was called a promissory note program. People loved it, and so because they could see a store coming up. But over time, we were opening stores with debt. And so now we're realizing as an organization, we're raising a lot of money. We can do it from a growth model instead. So 25, 26, we've decided let's slow our growth down. And let's concentrate on paying off all of the money that we owe and get ourselves to a position where all future growth will be growth dollars, not debt dollars. And during this 2-year sort of hiatus of growth, let's strengthen the outliers and the stores that need support. So we've identified 10 stores that could really be performing better, and our support center is going to wrap around support and walk alongside, and that's kind of our vision for the next 2 years. And hopefully we'll have our debt paid off, and then we can get back to growth. And we would love to see There's so many communities that reach out. I get emails, honestly, almost every week saying, hey, what about opening in this city? And what about here? And, I was just in your store. Could we open one here? And so I believe like over the 5 to 7 years, we want to get to around 80 stores because I think the potential's there. People need the thrift. There's the potential for communities and there's the potential to create better impact as well.
Yeah, definitely. With Neighbor, what we're building out here too, because one of our offerings I'm going across Canada with too. So I've been studying like the municipalities across Canada, and yes, there's a ton of great ones out there that I think would be a perfect fit for what you guys are building here too. So lots of great things, everything. But what are some challenges of that you face, kind of building out this mission-driven organization? Obviously, anything with growth and people and all this, if you could touch on a few of them, one that points out, we don't want to go too, be like, all the problems, but I think it's also a good piece for people to know that this stuff is hard. It's hard to build something meaningful that does give back to it. So I think touching on some challenges that you have faced would be good.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said people. And so we've talked about what is our secret sauce for a little while, and people don't like that term because they've heard it so much, but our secret sauce is people. And so realizing that, people can be your greatest asset and your greatest challenge. Getting the right amount of people, the right people in the right seats, setting them up for success. And so that's a piece that we try to invest heavily in. Training people, and you're training a volunteer base. They're not always going to be with you, but having that long-term vision, I think, is important. So seniors who are coming in, they come in to build community. They want to find community. Maybe they're feeling lonely. There's a loneliness epidemic. They talk about it a lot. Even in the news, people are dying from it, they say. So coming into our store in the back, they can find community. Now, a student coming in is completely different. He's got to get his hours done. But also it's preparing them for the workforce, so retail is actually very complex, when you think about it. And when you add thrift, it adds multiple layers to that, and so you're looking at your supply chain, you're looking at supply and demand, you're looking at data and analytics, you're looking at inventory turns, like there's a lot of pieces and all the sophistication that comes into retail. And so I think being able to invest in youth in that is powerful, for them. And then we have people who are having a really hard time, and not landing on their feet. And we see them all across our community. And so opening our door and saying, if you need to be hired, let's look there to hire people first. If they want to volunteers, get their reference checks and get letters and all of those things, come and do it here, and then if you need to go on, that's fine. So I would say people would be one. Two would be donations. So it really is a commodity, and you've got all these different players in the industry, and we are friends in the industry. We're great friends with Goodwill and Salvation Army, and then you've got the for-profit ones like Salvation, Talese and Savers Value Village. Everyone is looking for donations, and so I would say we are one of the few organizations where it's 100% localized. We don't ship product back and forth. The donations you see in Newmarket came from Newmarket. Whereas some of our competitors or friends in the space will be shipping product and have supply chain and all of that. And so I would say that's a challenge for us for some stores. Some stores, they get so many donors, you can't imagine, like 200 people coming a day and dropping off. Whereas some of our stores are getting around 30 or 40 cars. And so I would say donations is a challenge. And then training with that, volunteer workforce, setting up the system so that they know what to do and they make a big impact when they're there and they feel proud about the time that they invested. I'd say that's another challenge. So setting up each place and not putting in a huge investment in our stores. So some stores will open up for $1.5 or $2 million, let's say, a traditional store. For us, we're trying to keep it under $500,000.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very ingenuitive in the way you do it. But we do have awesome volunteers who come up with incredible things and can make it work. And so I'd say those are some of the challenges in the space.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, those are all great ones. And that's the cost of playing, you gotta deal with those things. What about some fulfilling parts of your job? You get to see kind of from top down all the things, but and as well too, like on the floor, like at a store too. What are some of the more fulfilling parts of your job and what you're doing at Mission Thrift?
That's an awesome question. So I believe every day magic happens in our stores. We have thousands and thousands of customers coming into our stores. And that's an opportunity for us to serve these guests who may not be served. Like traditional retail becomes hard, and a lot of retailers are seeing this. Well, how can we flip that to where people want to come into your store? When they come, they feel welcomed. You're greeting them by name. Many of our managers know the names of people who come in, and make it a welcoming environment. So I'd say, someone coming in and saying, I felt safe shopping in your store. I didn't feel rushed. Staff weren't like, okay, did you find what you need? Or, trying to move me along, but they're like, take your time. People will come in to ask for advice. They'll come to ask it for style questions. They'll come in, whatever reason they come in, just the fact that they are happy coming in, to me, that's special. Talking to a volunteer, who will tell me their life story. And we have these incredible life stories from people, and seeing like what would make you come for 15 years, 5 days a week, and when they tell you, like, that's amazing. That's a moment that you'll cherish forever. Or even talking to someone donating. You're in the back and they tell you, look, my father just passed away, or my aunt just passed away, and these were their belongings. And showing them that we treasure it. It's not just like, thank you, grabbing the boxes, this is our business. But it's like, thank you so much. We are going to honor the donation. And that's what we often talk about. How do we honor the donation that comes our way and maximize the value out of respect for the person who gave it to us? So I think we see those moments all along, every single day. I hear stories from all our managers across the country of what happened. And so-and-so came in and they're crying and the manager's crying and everyone's then laughing. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, you need those ones too to balance like the challenges, right? You need to be filled up over here so that when you can have some draining problems to solve. So for someone that's maybe interested in creating a business that's mission driven, what's some advice that you would give to them? How would you, what would some advice be for them?
That's great. So I think clarity of purpose, knowing your why. Why am I setting up this business? And what's the impact I want to be able to make through it, I think is critical. And then being able to evaluate that as well. Because sometimes, when you're starting a business, you're in the throes of it and you're kind of like looking at the tree instead of the whole forest. It's good to step back and be able to say, okay, are we making the impact that we set out to do? And then finding people. Partnership is everything, I think. Collaboration. So, no man is an island. We can't solve these problems alone. If you want to tackle big problems, you do it with other people. And it's never been easier to partner with people now with the tools and the platforms that we have. Sometimes you can feel like it separates us from people, like being on Zoom or using these platforms, but actually it connects us in so many ways as well. And I can connect with someone in Alberta and someone out in Halifax, and we can do something amazing together, by using these platforms. And so I'd say the power of partnership and purpose.
Yeah, important. I love that. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I am really impressed with Mission Thrift, and I think that you and the team and what you're building, from the stores to the volunteers to the donation to the thrifting, I hope that you could continue to ride the wave of it. It seems like the next 2 years you're going to take a little break, but that's going to set you up in a position to go even faster too in the long term. So, and the more stores you open, the more impact that you're going to be able to have on a community level. Us at Neighbour, we're all about community.
Yes, I can see that.
So thank you so much for coming on and talking about what you got going on.
Thank you very much. If I can make a final call to action, I would say shop, donate, and volunteer. Come shop. When you walk into our doors, you are a part of our impact. And when you come and volunteer, you make it all possible. And when you donate, our store wouldn't be there if people didn't donate. So shop, donate, volunteer. And thank you guys for having us and the work you do. It's awesome.
Love it. Okay, bye-bye.